Okay, so many of you have problems with homework 4, so I've decided to walk you through the problem. So I have an Excel sheet open in front of me, the question itself, and finally Scholar. You can see all the questions here. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do, and this tactic is going to help you a lot on the midterm, is try and extract data as I read through the question, whatever piece of information it may be. Okay, fine. There may be extraneous data in this assignment. You have to figure out which information is useful for solving a particular question. Okay, here's the background. You wish to invest in Project X. Project X is defined as follows. Project X begins at 12:01 a.m. on Jan 1st, 2015. Okay, so let's go ahead and put down a start date. And if some of you are more cautious, you can go ahead and put down a start time as well. Okay, start date is Jan 1st, 2015, so that's 1/1/2015, and just for kicks, I'm going to put in the time as 12:01 a.m. Okay, fine. At that time, Company Y will make machine Z1 available to you. So there's some entity called Company Y that's going to play a role. Company Y, that rents out machine Z1. You don't have to take out every piece of information from the question because on the midterm you'll only have 20 by 20, that's about 400 cells for each question. But I'm doing this nonetheless to help you out, so you at least know what to do on the midterm. Okay, now, where were we? At that time, Company Y will make machine Z1 available to you. So they make machine Z1 available on Jan 1st, 2015. Okay, so far no numerical data, and we're okay. You use machine Z1 to manufacture a certain product and earn money, hopefully. Company Y has agreed to make machine Z1 available to you from 12:01 a.m. on Jan 1st, 2015 till 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, 2017, after which Company Y will reclaim machine Z1. Okay, great. With respect to machine Z1, the expenditures you will incur are given by the table below. Okay, that's a table. Here it is. And you can skim through all the information here if you wish. Alright, what's next? If you decide to invest in Project X, then you will also need a facility where you can manufacture your goods. Alright, so far the description only spoke about a machine and its maintenance, and now the information given to you suddenly speaks about a certain location. And if this information wasn't relevant to the whole project, then it wouldn't be given to you. So as of now, you have to assume this information is relevant. Maybe you might need it in your calculations, or maybe not. That depends. You cannot decide that right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and put down location B here. So there's going to be some information related to location B. Okay, fine. What does the information say? If you decide to invest in Project X, okay. Then you'll also need a facility where you can manufacture your goods. Okay, fine. You have selected location B. Location B will be made available to you at 12:01 a.m. on December 1st, 2014. Not a minute before, not a minute after. So this is going to be available December 1st, 2014. Now remember, this is saying, the statement here says Project X begins at 12:01 a.m. on Jan 1st, 2015. But location B is going to be rented out, or you have to buy it on December 1st, 2014. So you can figure out by this information that perhaps Project X is defined in such a way that beginning Project X means manufacturing something. All right? That might be, how should I put it, the objectives of the project. We don't know that, and this is how information is going to be in real life. You will have to concatenate all the information given to you and make sense out of it. So it's fine if it didn't make sense to you the first time. As you move along, as you go along in this course, you will see more and more unstructured data, and you'll become more and more comfortable. So it's okay if you didn't understand it this time. Anyway, what's next? There are two options available to you with respect to location B. You can buy location B for $100,000. Okay, let me just put that down. Buy location B. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And let me just make that dollars. Or you can rent location B for 2702 point, how much ever that is. 70? Okay, there's a reason why it's 2702.70, and I will show you that in a moment. Maybe a few more moments. On a $702.70 a month starting December 1st, 2014. You will pay the rent for a month on 1st of that month at 12:01 a.m. That's just to make your life easier. Till December 31st, 2017. So that means you're going to pay rent. If you decide to rent location B, you're going to rent it out for 37 months. Okay, so if I just multiply this value by 37, that should come very close to 100,000. In fact, it is. That's how I got 2702.70. Just so that you know. Okay, the alternatives to Project X and the alternatives are important because they help us define the MAR, or the minimum attractive rate of return. Now, you guys remember doing the cash flow diagrams, right? Just shifting the arrows, so on and so forth. But the interest rate was given to you in those cash flow diagrams. Now, you have to choose what interest rate your cash flow diagram is going to have. That is assuming you're going to model Project X with a cash flow diagram. Okay, but other than that, the other explanation for MAR is if you have alternatives, then MAR is the minimum rate of return you want from your project so that you're taken away from the investment alternatives. Now here's the fun part, or I shouldn't say the fun part. Here's the confusing part. There are no revenues given over here, right? So most of you are confused about there's nothing coming from the project, so does return even make sense over here? You're correct, the return doesn't make sense, but the point is, you will have all these cash flows, or you'll have $80,000 on Jan 1st, 2015, not a minute before that. You'll have $10,000 on August 1st, 2015, not a minute before that, so on and so forth. So you have this money here, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to invest it in the project or not. And that's why the alternatives become important, because if you didn't invest it in Project X, all this money here, and also the rent money or the purchasing amount for location B, you would go ahead and you would invest it in one of these investment options, and your money would grow every day, and it would grow by about what? 0.05% for option A, 0.02% for option B, and 0.03% for option C. So you see, the alternatives are just there to help you pick the MAR. They really play no other role in the question. Okay, now having said that, which is the highest interest rate? That you can figure out from here. So the point of figuring out the highest interest rate is if you did not invest in Project X, then you would go ahead and you would invest it in one of these options. Okay, fine. So you first go ahead and figure out the MAR. I'm just going to write that down as MAR here. I'm not going to tell you the value because that's part of the assignment, but anyway. Okay, fine. So that's done. That's all the information we have. How many pieces of numerical data do we have? We have this table that gives you all the expenditures and the dates, and we also have one icky-bicky information here, which is either buy location B or rent location B. And renting location B is a little irritating because there's 37 months, but there's a neat trick in Excel which you can use. It's called a fill handle that can help you, do repetitive stuff more easily. Okay, fine. So let me just go ahead and look at all the questions on Scholar. If the start date of Project X is defined as the date on which you incur your first expenditure with respect to Project X, then what is the start date of Project X? Alright, so here's the problem. Now here, the first line says, is it the first line? Yes, it is the first line. The first line says Project X begins at 12:01 a.m. on Jan 1st, 2015. So what is this question trying to tell you? The question's saying, what if the objectives were changed? If the objectives were changed and Project X is now defined to start on the date when you incur your first expenditure, then what is the date? What is the start date of Project X? Now, many of you skipped ahead to the last question instead of answering the first few questions, and you may have missed out on this understanding. I set up the questions in such a way that if you answered linearly, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, your life would be very easy, and the questions would make more sense to you. So if you've gone ahead to question 8 and you've come backwards, whatever, and if you haven't understood the question, that's fine. If you were forced to do it from 1 to 8, then you would have understood that question, so there's nothing to feel bad about. Okay, so this question is asking you to redefine the start date of Project X, essentially. Alright, now what is question 2? If the end date of Project X is defined as the date on which you incur your last expenditure related to Project X, then what is the end date of Project X? Okay, now here's the fun part. Excuse me. Alright, so if you go, skim through the data all over again, you can see that there are a few expenditures in 2017. In fact, one last expenditure in December 31st, 2017. There's no other expenditure that occurs after December 31st, 2017. So that answer should be pretty easy for you. Alright, the next question. First, pick an alternative that gives you the highest marks. So these are the clues. So you now have to go through all the alternatives, and some of you already figured out there's a typo here, which is June 1st, 2014. I apologize. I was copy-pasting from the previous assignment. You know, it's too much. It's very tedious to type in all this. I did that for the previous one, so I just decided to use the same thing. I apologize for that. But this is indeed a typo. This is not June 1st. This is March 3rd. And same thing for option C. This is March 3rd as well. Okay, so if you just read through all the options, they're all the same, and now you just have to go ahead and pick the highest interest rate, whatever that is. I'm not telling. Okay, fine, it's easy to see. It's not so tough. Okay, fine. So what does the question say? Using that MAR, what is the future worth of the money you will use to buy location B? And what is the future worth of the money you will use to rent location B? Okay, what is future worth now? Future worth is essentially saying if you chose not to invest in Project X, how much money would you have by the end date of Project X? Now, the previous question has already defined the end date. That happens to be December 31st, 2017. Unfortunately, there is no way for me around that. I had to speak about that. So I apologize to all those who've spent time on this project. I promise this is the only answer I will reveal. Okay, fine. So the point is, if you didn't invest in any of this, and instead you invested it in one of the investment options, what is the future worth of the money you would use to either buy location B or you would use to rent location B? Now, what are the two options there? If you buy location B, you have to spend $100,000 on, when is that? December 1st, 2014. And conveniently, it's 12:01 a.m. So if you didn't buy location B on that day, you would go ahead and deposit $100,000 in one of the investment options. And the fun part is, the investment options, for each of the investment options, you can deposit every day between 10:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. So when you deposit that money on December 1st, 2014, whatever that is, you will get a certain interest. And the last date, on December 31st, 2017, you receive no interest. So all you now have to figure out is if you, for buying location B, if you did not buy location B, what would you do with this $100,000? You would invest in one of these options, and that would grow in a certain amount by December 31st, 2017. And that's the future worth of the money you would use to buy location B. Now, what about renting location B? That's the other part of the question. And that is far more irritating than the first part, because, you know, for the first part, if you just figure out the dates, you can just do $100,000. Is that $100,000? Yeah, I guess so. Raised to the power, times 1 plus, you know, whatever MAR is. I'm just going to write MAR here, and that should give me an error, so I'm not going to press enter. Okay, let me remove the equal to sign. That should make my life easier. MAR raised to the power, what should I write? Number of days. Number of days you receive interest on this money. So that's the idea here. You have to figure this out. How many days, if you deposited $100,000 in one of the investment options on December 1st, 2014, how much money, how many days would that money accrue interest? Unfortunately, that is something you have to figure out, so I can't help you there. Alright, now what is the next part of the question? The irritating part. I think I saw a couple of posts on the forum. I think there was one person who asked, is there an easier way to do this? Certainly, there is. And what is the easy way? I will show you. I'm not going to calculate this for you, but I will get you started. So let me see. What is the future worth of the money used to buy location B? That's taken care of. And what is the future worth of the money you will use to rent location B? Alright. Now, first, when do you pay the rent? You pay the rent on the 1st of each month at 12:01 a.m. That is very convenient, because if you didn't pay the rent and instead deposited in one of the investment options, you would get interest on that money on the day you deposit it as well. Why? Because you have that money at 12:01 a.m. and the bank opens, I don't know when it opens, but the bank allows you to deposit between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. So you can go make the deposit, and then the interest is calculated on that money at 11:30 a.m. So you get interest even on the day you deposit that money. Okay, coming to the part where calculations should be made more easy. What I'm going to do is just type in the dates. So the first rent, if you choose to pay rent, the first rent will be paid on that is December 1st, what is it, 2014? Yeah, 2014. Okay, when is the second rent you have to pay? When is the second month where you pay the rent? That's the 1st of Jan, 2015. Now, I'm not going to sit down and type in all the dates. So I'm just going to use a fill handle. There's a crosshair, drag the fill handle down, and let me see. Excel is showing me all the dates. Currently it's showing 7/1/2017, 8/1/2017. When is the end date of the project? I totally forgot. So if I choose to pay the rent, I will pay rent up to December 2017. So let me see if I have December. Oh, I do. So that's the last date. Wonderful. So I've taken care of my months. Now what is a rent? Let me just put number of days here instead of rent. Okay, now what is the rent I have to pay? The rent is 270270. 2702.70. Okay. So, and this is the same amount you pay every month for the rent. So I'm just going to drag that down. All right. Now here's the fun part. If let me put it more neatly. Now, if you choose not to pay the rent, and let's say, no, that's not a good way to explain it. Okay, fine. Now let's say you do, no. What is the question? Let me go back to the question. I'll start from there. Okay, what is the future worth of the money you will use to rent location B? Now, the inherent assumption here is you will rent location B. So that's the first assumption. If you do pay rent, then this is the amount you'll pay on the first of all these months that's given in the column here. Okay, that's fine. Now when the question comes, what is the future worth of this money, it is saying if instead of paying this much money on the 1st of December 2014, what if you deposited this money in one of the investment options, or the one that gives you the highest MAR? What if you went ahead and you deposited this money in those investment options? How much money would be there on the 31st of December 2017. Why is 31st of December important? Because that is the end date of the project. So if instead of paying $2,702.7 on the 1st of December, if I went ahead and deposited in one of the investment options, this money, this amount right there, that would gather interest for how many days? I'll let Excel figure that out for me. That minus that. So that will gather interest for 1,126 days. Now if you have the MAR, then the future worth of this amount is simply, I'm not going to put equal to because I'm not going to reveal the MAR. This is just 2702.7 times 1 plus MAR raised to the power 1126. That's so. Now if you have the MAR, you can perform this one calculation and then just drag this down, and Excel will calculate that for you. And all you have to do here is sum up all these values. Excel didn't do this for me because I don't have the value for MAR, so Excel sees this entire thing as a string. But if you had the MAR, which you should figure out, then this entire calculation becomes easy, and this question, you get the answer to that question. Okay, let's move on. So this is nice. That is just location B. I'm not concerned about anything else. The next question, what is the future worth of all expenditures related to Company Y and Company Z? Oh, okay, what's Company Y and Company Z? Let's just go back to the question. Oh, here we go. So this is the expenditures. This table gives you all the expenditures related to Company Y and Company Z. So once again, all I have to do is copy that table down here properly. I'm not going to type in reason, nor am I going to type in charged by. So I'm just going to put number of days. I'll make that clear in some time. Expenditure. No, why should I do that? Let me do expenditure and then number of days. Okay, what's the dates? Dates are very important. Some of you got the dates wrong, so keep that in mind. 1st, 2015, August 1st, 2015, Jan 1st, was that 2016? Okay, come on, 2016, April 1st, so what is that? Jan, Feb, March, April, that's 4, 4/1/2016, Jan 1st, 2017, oh, these are some nice values. I don't know what I was doing when I came up with these values, but that doesn't matter. 2017, August 1st, 2017, and December 31st, come on, 2017. Okay, I'm just going to confirm that once again. Jan 1st, 2015, that's correct. August 1st, 2015, that's correct. Jan 1st, 2016, that's okay. April 1st, 2016, that's okay. Jan 1st, 2017, Jan 1st, 2017, August 1st, 2017, and finally December 31st, 2017. Okay, what are the expenditures? 80,000. Okay, I'm just going to highlight these cells and make them dollar signs because it's very nice to see it in dollars. The reason why I'm using okay, this is called a number format, by the way. Many of you were confused on the exam how to represent your answer. Now, if you type in a fraction, for example, let's say this is an interest rate, and you want to type in 5%. You could do, first go ahead, this is a number format, click on the percentage symbol, and whatever you type in there, it's going to be stored as a fraction. So 5% is not stored as 5%, it's in fact stored as 0.05. How do I know? I'm going to go change that to general. There you go. See? That's fine, but don't multiply your values by 100. For future reference, it's very important. Okay, I digress once again. Let me go back. 70,000, 10,000. So coming to the reason why I use accounting format, because it's very easy to verify the numbers. Excel takes care of all the commas and the decimal points, so on and so forth. So you can just do a quick look and you'll be fine. 10,000, 10,000, and 5,000. Okay, is that correct? Let me do a check. 80,000, 10,000, 70,000, 10,000, 60,000, 10,000, 10,000, 5,000. Yes, that is okay. Okay, fine. Now coming to the question once again. What is the future worth of all expenditures related to Company Y and Company Z? Now these are all the expenditures related to Company Y and Company Z. And what is the future worth? Future worth says if you did not spend $80,000 on Jan 1st, 2015 on expenses related to either Company Y or Company Z, I forget which company it was, and instead you went ahead and deposited this money in one of the investment options, how much money would that grow into by the end date of the project, which happens to be 12/31/2017. So all you have to do now, if you have the MAR, you figure out how many days this amount of money accrues interest. So here's the end date of the project, minus the first, whenever that occurs. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to use a fill handle again, so I better, come on. Keep that cell stationary. Okay, now, so this is saying if instead of spending this money on Project X, I deposited in one of the investment options, that money would accrue interest for 1,095 days. If instead of investing this money in Project X, I went ahead and put that in one of the investment options, that money would accrue interest for 883 days, so on and so forth. So the future worth essentially is figuring out the value of this money on the 31st of December 2017 using the MAR. So here, I'm not going to type in equal to once again because I don't have the MAR. This is just 80,000 times 1 plus MAR raised to the power. Now I'm doing this very loosely. I'm not using the parentheses. Usually when I do this sort of a calculation, just to be sure, that is how I would do it, but I'm guessing Bedma's rules, so brackets, exponentiation. So exponentiation will be performed first anyway, so the previous expression was also fine. Now this is going to be raised to the power the number of days it accrues interest, so that's 1095. Of course, you don't have to do this because you have the MAR, and you can just use this cell reference and this cell reference to calculate this expression, and then use a fill handle to calculate all. So finally, the future worth of all expenditures is just the sum of these cells, whatever you get over here. Okay? So that question should be okay. Now, here's, which question were we on? 5. If you rent location B, what is the net future worth of Project X? Oh, fun. Now, the future worth of all the money you would use on the rent is given by this cell. In your Excel sheet can be something else. And now you have all the expenditures future worth over here, so just add those two up and you should be fine. If you buy location B, what is the net future worth of Project X? Okay, so that is taken care of. You already calculated that previously. That's here. So you go ahead and add that cell to the future worth of all the expenditures. That should be fine as well. Alright, so 7 and 8. This is a little tricky. If the present worth of Project X is calculated on the day the alternatives become available to you. Okay, this is not saying on the day you incur your first expenditure. This is saying on the day the alternatives become available to you. And here are all the alternatives. So you got to read the alternatives and see when they start. And that is a day on which you're going to calculate present worth. Then what is the worst possible value for present worth of project X? Now, why would this question ask, and the best possible value for present worth of project X? Now, why would this question ask the worst possible value and the best possible value? That is because you have two options. You can either rent location B or buy location B. Now, these expenditures are going to be fixed. But depending on whether you rent or buy location B, your future worth may change. So you actually have two values of future worth. Now, I'm not going to say which one is better, even though I know the answer. But the point is, one future worth will have a lesser negative value as compared to the other future worth. So the lesser negative value is the best possible future worth value. And the lower negative value, or the more negative value, is a worst possible value for future worth. Now, I told you in class that instead of actually, let me just backtrack a bit. Let me go back to the question. Now, when you're calculating present worth, all present worth is saying, if you shifted all the cash flows to a certain point in time, what would the value of the net cash flow be? And here, when the question is saying present worth of project X is calculated on the day the alternatives become available to you. So you have to figure out on which day the alternatives become available. And you have to shift all these cash flows. These are the expenditures. And if you're renting, then these are the cash flows which you have to shift. If you're buying, then that's the cash flow you have to shift. And you have to shift all these to the date on which the alternatives become available. I'm not telling what that date is. And I told you in class a shortcut to do this is figure out the future worth first, and then just shift the value of the future worth, because future worth lies on the end date of the project. So you just shift that value to the start date of the project. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, two values you're looking for depend on... Okay, I've already told you that, so that's not so bad. Okay, what is question 8? If the present worth of project X is calculated on the day you incur your first expenditure related to project X. Now remember... Oh, you go back down. Now remember that the first question redefined the start date of project X. And, come on. And this question is essentially taking that, making use of the first question. So what is the first day you incur an expenditure related to project X? Remember that this table is not the only table that gives you information. No, in fact, that is the only table that gives you information. But what am I trying to say? Now, this table does not contain all the information about the expenditures. This paragraph that follows that also has information about expenditures related to project X. So using these two, this table and this paragraph, you have to figure out what is the date on which you incur your first expenditure related to project X. And using that date, you shift all the cash flows to that date to calculate present worth. Once again, don't shift all the cash flows. You already have the future worth values, the worst and the best. Just shift those to that date, whatever date this question is defining. And that's all there is. This took me how many minutes? I have no idea. Let me check. About 28 minutes. So this entire assignment should be done in about, I don't know. If you're reading this and not discussing this with anybody, and if you just solve this on your own quickly, about 40 to 45 minutes, I guess, and you should be fine. Now, keep in mind that this homework assignment is very important, because 2 of your questions on the midterm will be practically homework 4. I shouldn't say that. It's not the same as homework 4, but yes, it's going to be more or less this kind of a question where you're given a project. There are expenditures related to the project, and you have to figure out a few things like future worth, present worth, so on and so forth. Alright, that's all I have for today. If you have other questions, I strongly encourage you to post it on the forum, because I see a lot of people are active on the forum, and you should be able to get your answers faster that way. Alright, see you tomorrow in class.